Chapter 20. Seeing the green splatters everywhere, Damien's eyes flashed with awe. This was the power of the inventory drop combo. Although strength might not have been enough to swing the heavy goblin bat around, Damien still had the basic ability to direct its fall. Rather than strength, what this move required was proper timing. In a way, summoning the goblin bat out of the inventory at the right time was just like using aura, only much riskier. However, as long as the timing was right, Damien had to do nothing other than let gravity do its job. This was a close one. Even though the hobgoblin already had its head exploded, Damien's heart was still pounding loudly out of fear and excitement. Such a move had no plan B. If he messed up, then Damien would have been sent directly to his second retry. Not to mention timing, just a sudden twitch in the hand could drop the goblin bat at the wrong place. If the monster wasn't at least pinned down by the drop, Damien's face would have been smashed before he could put the bat away. The same thing could be said about fighting a group of monsters. The goblin bat's weight ensured that Damien would remain immobile during the second he took to activate his inventory. By then, he would have already been skewered by the monster's teammates. This was exactly why the goblin bat couldn't become Damien's main weapon. It could only be used for special occasions. Nonetheless, despite having less of a risk using the short sword in a more prolonged battle, Damien still chose to use this chance to give this method a practical test, and it didn't disappoint. Let's use it less from now. Of course, the conclusion that he came to wasn't positive. The reason why this worked from the first wasn't because he was precise like a hawk. Fate was just on his side this time. That being said, this was only a primary analysis. After all, something else had completely stolen Damien's attention. The possessed subject's level has risen. The one pop-up message that Damien had been looking forward to had finally surfaced. After accumulating more than 10 fate points, their most basic use had opened up. It's automatic. As enthusiastic as Damien was to do something with his gains, he once again took his time contemplating how different things were in the reality patch. In Fate's guide, fate points could indeed be used to level up. However, that was one outlet of many. The player had more freedom and control over where he wanted to invest these points. As long as he reached the required thresholds, different outlets would open up and he would get to choose. On the other hand, just by reaching the basic threshold for the first function of FP, leveling up, the plot armor system automatically invested them in. Did that mean that the other functions and outlets didn't exist in the reality patch? Or was it because things were just getting started? In any case, the possessed subject's skill learning capacity has been slightly enhanced. The possessed subject's passive talent quality has been slightly enhanced. Closing square bracket. You have obtained 2 free stat points. The following messages were even more intriguing for Damien. A level up in Fate's guide was always expressed in mathematical additions. However, just like the stats in the reality patch were more limited, only the distributable stat points remained the same. Everything was vaguely implied. Status window. Mission subject status window, possessed. Name: Iris Platina, Damien Trey. Age: 21, 24. Level: 2, FP. 1. Class: Basic Aura Knight. Title: Failure of the Renowned Knight Family. Strength: 12, 33%, plus, Constitution: 11, 28%, plus, Agility: 13, 90%, plus, Wisdom: 10, 33, Aura: 11 free stat points, 2 skills: Swordsmanship LV.2, Spearmanship LV.1, Blunt Mastery LV.1, Shield Arts LV.1, Aura Nurturing LV.1. Passives: Combat Instincts, A+, Resource Devouring Genius, S. Abilities: Platinum Aura Nurturing, Tier 1, B. Despite the messages getting Damien's hopes up of things becoming a lot easier, nothing much really changed. Aside from the depletion of 10 FPs, the only fresh feature was the ability to add the stat points that he had just gained into the main physical stats. Is it because these talents are already too highly ranked? Had Iris talents been lower ranked ones, would the effect have been more visible? Damien personally wasn't sure. At the very least, the very first message gave him more hope than the rest. If there was one thing that Iris was truly trash at, then it had to be her skill training. If leveling up once or twice could change that, Damien would be very thankful for that. How should I assign them though? Regardless, the best way to immediately feel the effect of the level up had to be using the stat points. At first, Damien considered discussing this investment with Iris, who was the rightful owner of this body, but he decided against it in the end. I need to maintain my efficiency for now. Just in case they disagreed on it for some reason, Damien didn't want to drive a wedge between himself and Iris out of such a happy occasion. To begin with, this wasn't really that hard of a choice. The three options all had their pros and cons, and Damien just needed to weigh those down and pick accordingly. Definitely not agility. The first option that Damien kicked out of the window was the agility stat. Although adding on to the highest stat sounded like the best option in a lot of cases, this was only going to be incredibly useless in his current situation. Despite having close to 14 points of agility, Damien still lost out to the basic goblin in speed. He wasn't even sure if adding these 2 points would make him their equal. Just looking at the possible returns of this investment made it a bad choice. Then, with only 2 more options to pick from, things got both easier and harder for Damien. On one hand, more strength meant that he could properly wield the goblin bat faster, but on the other, stamina was still his weakest point. After giving it proper thought, Damien found his choice quicker than he thought. If he wanted to maintain his intensive exploration rate, there was only one viable option. Constitution +1, Constitution +1.